When you think the Lakers, you think of Kobe Bryant, but today that changes forever.
With the second pick, the Toronto Raptors select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
Now with the young star's career kicking off in Toronto, history would be completely rewritten and we'd be seeing those changes happening immediately. With a far less talented Raptors team, there was no reason to have Kobe Bryant coming off the bench to start his career. Right away, he was given the green light by his team, and the main priority was his growth as the face of the franchise. And being given the reins to the team early was reflected in his game significantly. His scoring was shining bright straight out the gates, and Bryant was giving his team a bit of a push everywhere else as well. The buzz around the league was building rapidly, and the media spotlight was fixated on the exciting new star Kobe and if he can claim the Rookie of the Year. But that wouldn't be easy with another young budding star also in his debut season. Iverson was also putting up some very promising numbers and had the advantage of college experience over Kobe. Either way, both of these two stars would spend their entire season as a primary focus of sports headlines and what would become one of the most competitive Rookie of the Year races in this game's history. But ultimately, only one of these two could win that prize, and it would be Allen Iverson taking home those honors. And while these two will have many more battles in the future, for now, this is the end of this encounter. Kobe still had a fantastic season that would end up with a spot on the All-Star team, but ultimately the deciding factor came down to the team's record. Bryant's best running mate so far was a 5'10" Damon Stoudemire, who was known for his scoring, but he was far from efficient. By the season's end, the Raptors fell to one of the East's worst records, and the bleeding wasn't even close to stopping. Over the course of the next 3 seasons, time and time again, other teams were dominating the Raptors, and it was evident because from the 98 through the 2000 seasons, they were at the very bottom of the NBA standings. And to add insult to injury, in 1998, they were drafting center LaFrance with the 5th pick, which came 1 pick prior to the great Dirk Nowitzki, who would be going 6th overall to the Pistons. These shortcomings to build a team around Kobe were becoming worrisome for fans, but there may be some light at the end of the tunnel. In the 1997 draft, Toronto hit on their 7th pick by adding point guard Chauncey Billups. He was already a solid player and in time would develop very nicely alongside Bryant as long as Toronto was able to retain him long term. Another great draft pickup would be Shawn Marion in the 99 draft with the 2nd pick. Being a very versatile forward with all NBA levels of defense was bound to flourish alongside someone of Kobe's caliber long term. And speaking of Kobe, he was drastically improving from his rookie campaign. While the 1998 season saw a jump in his scoring from 19 points a night to now just over 23 per game, it would be the 1999 and 2000 seasons where he'd really break out as a generational talent. In 1999, there didn't seem to be a single defender in all of the NBA that could slow him down. He was posting a new career high in points by a massive margin, and with it, he was doing a bit of everything else. With these type of numbers, he was already in MVP discussions at only 20 years old, but due to his failed team success, he wouldn't be crowned as the league's best just yet. However, that shortcoming only fueled him to keep pushing even harder going into the next season. He maintained his impressive play, and his 30 points per night was enough to earn a scoring title for the 2nd year in a row. The hype was seriously starting to build up for Kobe, but you have to question his lack of a playoff experience, which was made even more alarming as his rival Iverson was winning his 1st ring this season, which means as Kobe's season was concluding, expectations would be massive the next year. And with Billups finally breaking out to an all-star level, it was looking like those expectations could very well be met. Chauncey was growing comfortable in the flow of Toronto's offense, and his playmaking abilities were a godsend for Kobe, who alongside his new co-star Billups was having another electrifying season. For the 3rd year straight now, he was cracking the 30 points per night mark and was on top of the entire league when it came to scoring the basketball. He was feeling unstoppable by now, but his team certainly wasn't. With a lackluster bench sporting 0 worthwhile role players, it was no surprise that much of the weight of the team would fall entirely onto Bryant. And even with as impressive as he was playing this year, the East was a deep conference, and battling for a playoff spot would be no easy task. The Raptors were neck to neck with the Heat for the entire year, but in the end, Toronto was falling just shy of the playoffs again. Kobe and his team are starting to improve, but it's clear that they're going to need some help. This Raptor team has no bench, and outside of Billups and Kobe, it's pretty weak. But I did just in the offseason, and let me tell you, I have a very good feeling that next season is going to be big. Toronto was adding defensive specialist Ben Wallace to the roster. He immediately catapulted the Raptors to the league's top defense as him and Shawn Marion were shutting down all opposing offenses. Additionally, Toronto also drafted a solid 7-footer Eddie Curry to play minutes at center. These bigs were a huge upgrade in the pick and roll, which was opening things up for Kobe Bryant as he got to the basket with more ease. And speaking of Bryant, we've seen stellar performance game after game over the last few years, but this season was something extra special. The Mamba looked more locked in than ever before now that he had a more competent team around him. It was as if the team being in a position to be contenders fueled him to push his game as far as possible to help his group. Everything about his game was becoming more polished, with new career highs in rebounds and assists, all while still maintaining nearly 30 points every single night. And by no surprise, we were going to see him recognized eventually. And that was happening now. Kobe Bryant finally gets his first MVP in his career with the Raptors. 50, 40, 90 club, almost 30 points a night, 6 boards, 7.5 assists. Absolutely phenomenal season for Kobe Bryant, but this isn't even all of it. Even more important than the MVP, the Raptors were in the playoffs finally, and we were about to witness Bryant's postseason debut. And while we haven't had the chance to see Kobe in the playoffs yet, the wait was well worth it because he was saving his biggest performance for when the lights were the brightest. With the whole world watching to see if he could prove himself, the MVP would go on to have a near flawless game with a new career high of 59 points that will ultimately culminate in a Raptors victory to lead the series. Although come game 2, the tides of the series were shifting as the Indiana Pacers were prepared to strike back. Led by a veteran Reggie Miller, the Pacers were not only fighting to tie this series back up, but they were heading out to Indiana for game 3, and in front of their hometown fans, they remained in complete control, eventually going on to take a very commanding 2-1 lead in the first round. For those of you that didn't know, up until 2003, the first round was a best of 5 series, which means Kobe's back is now against the wall, facing elimination. The Pacers need one more to bounce them from the NBA playoffs. So with our stars back against the wall and the doubters hoping he fails after earning an MVP, we would have a chance to see Kobe's mentality in the face of adversity. And for anyone who knows Kobe, you know the type of player he is in situations like these. Going on the road in an elimination game, the MVP of the league would prove why he had the title with another 50-point performance in utter domination to force a deciding game 5, which luckily was heading back to home court. However, Reggie Miller wasn't exactly phased. After Kobe's huge game 4, the veteran Miller was coming up with a major game 5 performance to keep his team's title hopes alive. The two-star shooting guards were trading blow after blow with one another, and this would turn out to be one of the most exciting first-round matchups in a while, and we were in for even more excitement with the final seconds being undecided. Well, Kobe's making his playoff debut in style here, a game 5 elimination match. Up by 2 right now. Indiana has the ball with 50 seconds remaining, a chance to take the lead with this 3! Did they drill in the 1-point lead? I don't even know who that was that shot. That was an insane shot. Kobe with it, spin move on Reggie Miller. The MVP kicks it to Eddie Curry. His jumper's off. What kind of shot is that? The Pacers with the ball now, 33 seconds left. You have to rely on your defense to get a stop. Chauncey Billups all over him. They can't get the board. They do get Eddie Curry with it now. 25 seconds left. Billups with it. You have to get this ball in the hands of the Mamba. The MVP driving in over Miller. The pull up. Kobe gets it in to take the lead. What a shot from Bryant. The 1-point lead. All they need is a stop now. Sean Maris checked back in the game. Wallace in the game. They got all the defensive players in here. This should be easy to get a stop. Chauncey Billups, 12 seconds left here, guarding Davis at the top. Is Reggie Miller going to get involved on Kobe here? 7 seconds left. The screen. Davis, nowhere to go. The pull-up that's deep over Billups. It's off. They get the board. They go into the line. LaFrance hit the first free throw. If he sinks this second one, he gives them a 3-point lead. I'm not sure if Indiana has any timeouts. It's looking like they don't unless they hit a full court shot. This one might be over. Davis for the tie. Full court, it's off. Kobe's advancing. The momentum from the big win in Bryant's first ever playoff series was quickly carrying the Raptors to the second round as they faced off with Tracy McGrady's Orlando Magic. T-Mac was a budding star in the league and was one of the best scorers in all of basketball, but Kobe Bryant was even better, and it showed in their duel here, as the Raptors were winning in 5 to earn their first ever conference finals appearance. But now they were facing yet another athletic scoring shooting guard, and this one was on another level. Vince Carter looked to be completely unstoppable as he pushed the ball to the paint without any regard for the defense. Even with the great Ben Wallace protecting the paint, Carter was still finding ways to score or involve his teammates. Which, speaking of teammates, the Hawks had a very well-rounded lineup and one of the deepest benches in the NBA, which could lead to the Raptors' downfall. Toronto lacked much depth and their starters have been playing heavy minutes since the first game of the season. Even with much of the lineup being very young, the fatigue was bound to play a factor at some point, and unfortunately it was here in the conference finals. The Raptors didn't play poorly by any means, but they just couldn't keep up with the fresh, deep Hawks roster. Atlanta was taking down the MVP and his overnight sensation Raptors to earn themselves a trip to the finals. And even though they lost, making it this far would leave plenty to be happy about, but not in the eyes of Kobe, who was heading into the offseason planning to push not only his game, but the game of all his teammates in order to make that push to the next level. And luckily, the front office was adding more help. Toronto was addressing their biggest weakness by adding some fantastic role players to round out their bench. The added production along with the great shooting of the new pickups allowed for Kobe and his running mates to dominate even more with less fatigue and defensive pressure. And while Bryant wasn't going to be crowned as back-to-back MVP, he'd still stand out as one of the best talents in the entire league and was leading his team to the top seed come the playoffs, which by no surprise, they took advantage of having home court in round 1 with the top seed, and they were quickly dismantling the Bulls. Everything was clicking for the Raptors, and it would seem not only have the main core of the team all developed, but their chemistry was through the roof, and they'd be coming out on top with a sweep. Following the round 1 win, they'd have a rematch against Carter. We just witnessed the Hawks run all over our star last postseason, but this time around things would be drastically different, with Kobe's offense outmatching the Hawks in a series that was a lot less close than it appeared, which meant now Toronto was back in the conference finals, and it was another rematch against a star guard from last playoffs. And while the previous run-in with Indiana resulted in the first of what could be many of Kobe's iconic moments, this year's matchup was far less climatic. In a quick 5 games, Toronto was coming out on top, and they were now preparing for their franchise's first ever finals appearance. But in their way of a ring was by a mile the biggest challenge they had yet. Barnett was this season's most valuable player, and he was dragging an otherwise mediocre team all the way to the finals. Just like Toronto, this was Minnesota's first ever championship series, and you could see the determination in KG's play to will his team to the top of the basketball realm. He was stepping into enemy territory for game 1, and he would steal one on the road backed by a monumental performance. However, just as quickly as KG took game 1, Kobe was taking over the rest of them. Kobe would put on a scoring masterclass the next 4 games in a row and was easily keeping his team ahead of the Wolves. With the Raptors' great defenders swarming KG and his supporting cast being incredibly lackluster, it was no surprise that Toronto would walk all over them. It took 7 years, but finally, Kobe was getting his name engraved in NBA history with his first ever NBA championship, as he also brings the first banner to Toronto. And of course, Kobe was being given the Finals MVP, and it looked like this might only be the beginning. But at the same time, a new rival was about to join the league to threaten Kobe's legacy.
With the first pick in the 2003 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select LeBron James.
But for now, we'd be witnessing another dominant run through the 2004 NBA playoffs. After tasting success in 2003, the Raptors were eager for more, and they already had the formula mapped out to go all the way. They'd be in the conference finals for a rematch with the Pacers, who had a new-look roster built around Gilbert Arenas and the rookie Dwayne Wade. Ultimately, though, Kobe and his team were able to come out on top to advance to the finals. But I can all but guarantee we'll see more of the Wade-led Pacers soon. Eventually, the Mamba was making his way to a second straight finals, this time against Ray Allen and Elton Brand on the Dallas Mavericks. Unfortunately for Jesus Shuttlesworth, the current makeup of the Raptors team had very little weaknesses, and we very well could be watching a dynasty in the making, as not only would they go on to win the finals this year, but the very following season they were winning another ring after defeating the Hornets, who somehow made it to the finals with Manu Ginobili as their best player. The Raptors were celebrating completing the three-peat and looked forward for a chance to make NBA history with 4 straight. And on their way to the finals in 2006, they were defeating the Sixers in the conference finals for the 2nd straight year, which would officially kill the early rivalry between Kobe and Iverson. The finals this year would be another matchup with the Ginobili Hornets, and it would be ending just as fast as it did the season prior. Bryant and the Raptors were making history by winning 4 straight, and it looked like there was nothing stopping this team. Until the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals, against who other than the Pacers and D. Wade. These two were the clear-cut top teams in the East, and this matchup would be a back-and-forth affair for the ages. Wade was making the first blow in Game 1 to give his team an early edge, but this year's MVP was in turn also fighting to reclaim that edge over the next 2 games. Kobe was shifting the momentum of this series by winning both games 2 and 3, only for the back-and-forth antics to continue as D. Wade was once again giving his team the edge. After 5, the Pacers were only 1 win away from a finals appearance, but they can't celebrate just yet, because who other than Kobe in Game 6 would be chipping away back into the series and force a final elimination Game 7. And with this season deciding match preparing for tip-off in Toronto, only one team could come out on top and earn a trip to the NBA Finals. That team being the roster packed to the brim with veteran talent, seemingly on a quest for the greatest modern dynasty in sports. Toronto wouldn't even let this Game 7 be close, and after maintaining the lead for the full 48 minutes, they'd finally be ending this instant classic series as they head to their 5th straight finals, only to be quickly halted in their tracks by the brightest up-and-coming star in the NBA, LeBron James. He was on a Lakers team joined by a prime Dirk Nowitzki, and while Toronto was still favorites to win, the Lakers would end up taking this series in 6 games to end the Raptors' hopes of ring number 5. And just like that, Kobe was brought back down to earth. And while he would have several more matchups with LeBron soon enough, that wouldn't be for a while as everything was changing for the Raptors. Chauncey Billups was finally moving on from the Raptors, which came as no shock with several headlines noting his desire for more of the spotlight. Additionally, Toronto was also losing some of their bench depth. And lastly, Wallace was beginning to get up there in age, meaning now Kobe was on one of the weakest teams he's had in years and the pressure was on. Bryant himself would actually end up having his own personal best season of his career so far. This would include a career high in points per game on great efficiency, but he wouldn't be getting an MVP this year, which was likely due to his team's record, which was the worst it's been in years. And while they'd still make the playoffs, once they got to round 2, they were getting completely crushed by a longtime rival in Indiana, now becoming Kobe's earliest playoff exit of his career and what will become known as a downhill portion of his legacy, because over the course of the next 3 seasons, the Raptors were either falling to the Pacers early in the playoffs or even missing the playoffs entirely in 2011. The Raptors missed the playoffs entirely for the first time in I don't know how long. They went from 5 straight finals trips to a couple of first, second round exits, and now they can't even make the playoffs. And Kobe's getting older. He's 33. He's only got a couple of good years left. If he's going to start winning, he needs to start doing it fast. Thankfully, they would have some luck with the draft lottery, and they were able to draft a solid big in Vucevic. His abilities in the pick and roller pop paired well with Kobe, and this would be a big boost to their offense. With time ticking on the back end of his career, Bryant was having another stellar season and was getting back in the winning column with a good enough record for the 2nd seed. But of course, that change wasn't all because of Vucevic, because there was a much bigger story. That offseason, Toronto landed one of the best point guards in the entire NBA to pair alongside Kobe for one final push. Paul took all the characteristics that worked so well for Kobe with Billups, and he pushed it up to a whole new level. Everything from his scoring abilities and added defense, but of course, most importantly was the playmaking to run the team. Now that the Mamba was back on a contender, he was back to playing right where he left off. He and the Raptors were chipping away through all of the East to include defeating the longtime rival Indiana Pacers, and in a redemption story that rivals Hollywood plots, Kobe was a fish on his way back to the NBA Finals, but there was a familiar face in the way of his title dreams. In Kobe's last Finals appearance, that young LeBron took the torch and sent Kobe packing. And now fast forward to 2012, and we were seeing history repeating itself. Once again, LeBron was dismantling the Toronto Raptors. And just like in real life, the mantra of LeBronto was being born. It was like King James completely owns that city, and there was nothing Kobe could do to stop him. Insane run from the Raptors to go from missing the playoffs to the finals. LeBron is apparently Kobe's kryptonite, and even more ironically, it's the Lakers that he keeps losing to in the finals. But Bryant isn't one to succumb to the pain of defeat, and even at 34 years old, he would spend the offseason working on his game and it would all pay off. He'd be back in the finals, but this time against the Grizzlies, led by an all-star Carmelo Anthony. This matchup was reminiscent of Kobe's early career against great scorers like McGrady and Vince Carter. Melo was easily one of the greatest scorers this sport has ever seen, and the challenge would be just as big as the battles with T-Mac. The only difference being that Bryant now had CP3 with him, and the impact that this small guard made on the game was glaring. If it boiled down to the Melo versus Kobe matchup, then Memphis might just come out as champions with Kobe in the back end of his prime. But Chris Paul was doing just enough to keep his team ahead, and in this reality, CP3 wouldn't be going ringless as he was earning the Finals MVP and in turn helping Kobe get ring number 5 in his first championship in years. And at this point, Kobe has done it all in the NBA. He was undoubtedly one of the greatest ever, but there was one last thing to prove. He has yet to defeat LeBron James, but he'd have a rematch in the 2014 finals for a chance to do just that. But it could be his last chance, because the following 2 seasons, Kobe would fail to make it to the finals after falling to the new MVP, Steph Curry, and that would take us into Kobe's retirement. So if he was going to get revenge on LeBron, it was now or never. And in this pivotal moment of his career, we'd see the Mamba turn back the clock and look like the prime Kobe that was leading his team to 4 straight NBA championships. He may be old at this point, but the skills he's developed over the years were still shining bright in this moment, and when it mattered the most, he was executing. Bryant was leading the way, and he had his team up 3-2 in commanding fashion with a chance to close this out late in Game 6. We have a tied game late in what could be Kobe Bryant's last ever finals game in the simulation. Inbound to Chris Paul. He's been the hero a lot in this playoffs. Chris Paul driving all the way in on Chris Paul. He gets it over to Kobe Bryant. LeBron James guarding him. The matchup we all want to see. They get it to Sean Marion. He's been with Kobe for a long time now. Jared Dudley getting minutes is kind of crazy. Kobe trying to get in the post versus LeBron. They kick it up to CP3 for 3. Bang! What a shot over Rondo. A minute remaining now. Chris Paul with 30 points in this huge game. LeBron driving it on Kobe. Kobe, the defense isn't good enough. LeBron gets the lay 1-point game. Another possession here for Toronto late. They're trying to defeat LeBron and the LeBronto narrative. Chris Paul driving in. Villanueva gets the dunk from CP3 to pick and roll. Back up to 3. 42 seconds left. The Lakers have the ball now. There's plenty of time. Anything can happen here late. LeBron with it, driving it in on Kobe again. Kobe trying to defend him. The drop step. Marion brings the help and fouls. I feel like Kobe had it. I guess it didn't really matter. The Raptors had a foul to give anyway. They inbounded to Dirk, who is still in the NBA here. He's very old to this point. Kicks down low to Swift. He gets the layup. 2K generated guy. They're going to play the foul game here late. They get it inbounded CP3. Chris Paul went to the free throw line, hits both. They go up by 3 now. Paul has been huge here in these final moments. It's been all Chris Paul. LeBron James gets it now. Sean Marion guarding him, one of the best defenders in the league. LeBron getting that separation, a wide open lane. That was way too easy. I imagine you're gonna try to foul again here off this inbound. If they cannot get the inbound steal, they get to CP3 again. Paul hit the first free throw number 2. Chris Paul chokes on free throw 2, a fantastic free throw shooter, and now there's a mismatch here. LeBron versus CP3. This is not good. LeBron one-on-one with Chris Paul, sizing him up. 6 seconds left. LeBron to spin, the pull-up 3. It's off. It rims out. Dirk trying to get it. Who's it off of? It's off of Villanueva. The Lakers have another chance. 2 seconds left. What kind of nonsense is that? They're gonna try to get it inbounded. I think he's gonna go to Rondo in the corner here. That's what the 2K AI does. LeBron's trying to get open. Rondo in the corner for the win. Rondo sinks it. The Raptors are shocked after the loss with a chance to win, but they still had a game set. And in possibly the biggest game of his entire career, Kobe Bryant was mustering up his best playoff performance ever. Not only leading his team in every statistic, but also leading his team to the victory to secure his 6th ring as he coasts into retirement. His final year would be 2016, just like real life, and he would finish his career with enough accolades that you would have no choice but to recognize him as one of the greatest of all time.